You spend $3,000 on a beautiful deck. 3 years later, it's gray, cracked, and rotting. You're at the hardware store again, staring at shelves of wood preservatives, all promising miracles, all costing a fortune. Meanwhile, across Europe, half-timbered houses built in 1347 are still standing. The wooden beams are perfect. No rot. No replacement. Same wood, 677 years later. What did medieval builders know that we've completely forgotten? The answer isn't complicated. It's not expensive. And it doesn't require a chemistry degree. It's linseed oil. Not the stuff you buy at the hardware store. Real linseed oil applied the way our ancestors did it. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to protect your wood for decades, without toxins, without breaking the bank, and without replacing it every few years. Let's talk about why everything you build outdoors falls apart so quickly. In the past, wood was a generational project. Grandfather built the fence. Father maintained it. Grandson inherited it. Today, after 3 years, you're buying a new one. This isn't nostalgia talking. There's a scientific reason modern wood fails. Modern timber comes from fast-growing plantations. These trees shoot up as tall in 20 years as they used to in 100. Sounds efficient, right? Here's the problem. Fast growth means loose structure. The annual rings are wide and soft. The wood is porous, like a sponge. Water penetrates easily. Fungi move in. The wood rots from the inside out. So what does the industry sell you? Pressure impregnation. They pump your wood full of chemicals, copper, chromium, sometimes arsenic. Toxic substances designed to keep fungi and insects away. This works for a while. But here's what they don't tell you. These chemicals wash out. They end up in your garden soil, in your groundwater, in the vegetables your kids eat. And the new, environmentally friendly treatments? They're even worse in some ways. They contain so much copper that regular screws corrode away within months. You need stainless steel fasteners, which cost 3 times as much. Even with all these chemicals, the wood doesn't last any longer than it did 20 years ago. It's a perfect cycle for the industry. You buy expensive treated wood. After a few years, it's ruined. You dispose of it as hazardous waste because of the chemicals. Then you buy new, expensive, treated wood again. The industry profits. You pay. The environment suffers. Medieval craftsmen didn't have this problem. No chemicals. No pressure impregnation. No preservatives. Yet their wooden buildings are still standing today, 500, 600, even 700 years later. They understood something fundamental about wood that we've forgotten. Wood doesn't need to be sealed like a plastic bottle. Wood needs to breathe. At the same time, it needs protection from moisture and pests. Their solution was brilliant in its simplicity. Linseed oil. Extracted from flax seeds, the same plant used to make linen fabric. But this wasn't just any oil slapped on with a brush. Linseed oil penetrates deep into wood fibers. It doesn't clog the pores. Instead, it hardens inside them. The wood remains flexible but becomes water repellent. Vikings soaked their longship planks in linseed oil. These vessels crossed the Atlantic for centuries, enduring storms and salt water that would destroy untreated wood in months. Medieval farmers treated their tools with linseed oil. Many of these tools, axes, handles, wheels, still work today, pulled from barns and museums. The secret never disappeared. It was just buried under decades of chemical industry marketing that convinced us only expensive synthetic treatments work. But the truth? The best solution is the simplest. Linseed oil, when applied correctly, protects wood better than any modern chemical treatment. And it's been proven over centuries of real-world use. Here's where most people go wrong. They hear linseed oil, run to the hardware store, buy a bottle, slap it on their deck, and wonder why it's still sticky 6 months later. Not all linseed oil is the same. Medieval masters understood this completely. There are 2 types, raw linseed oil and boiled linseed oil. The difference determines success or failure. Raw linseed oil dries extremely slowly. We're talking months, sometimes years. During this time, it remains sticky and attracts every speck of dust and dirt. Worse, it can turn rancid before it ever hardens, leaving you with a smelly, useless mess. For our ancestors, raw linseed oil was only the raw material, not the finished solution. Boiled linseed oil is what actually works. But here's the catch, and this is crucial. Walk into any hardware store today and you'll find bottles labeled boiled linseed oil. Most of it has never been boiled. Not once. Modern manufacturers mix raw linseed oil with metal salt dryers that accelerate drying chemically. It works, technically. But it's not the same as real boiled linseed oil. Medieval craftsmen actually boiled their linseed oil. They heated it for hours at low temperatures. This changes the molecular structure. The oil becomes thicker, more viscous, and dries much faster. More importantly, it polymerizes better. The oil molecules link together to form long chains, creating a strong, flexible protective layer. In the Nordic countries, linseed oil treatment was essential for survival. Vikings built their longboats from oak planks. These ships had to survive months at sea, through storms, salt water, freezing temperatures. One leak could sink the entire vessel. Their solution: they soaked each plank thoroughly with boiled linseed oil. The oil penetrated deep into the wood fibers, making them water repellent while keeping the wood flexible enough to adapt to the waves. Archaeologists have excavated Viking ships buried in the ground for over 1,000 years. The wood was so well preserved that they could still detect the original linseed oil treatment. 1,000 years underground, and the wood was still protected. The Vikings weren't alone. German carpenters treated their half-timbered houses with linseed oil. These buildings are still standing today, 500, 600, 700 years later. The wooden beams have darkened with age, but they're still structurally perfect. The secret lies in how linseed oil reacts with wood. Other oils, olive oil, sunflower oil, remain liquid. They can turn rancid or wash out over time. Linseed oil is different. It's a drying oil. This means it reacts with oxygen from the air and becomes solid. This reaction is called oxidation. The oil molecules combine with oxygen atoms to form long polymer chains. The result isn't oil anymore. It's a type of natural plastic, a flexible, durable coating that protects the wood from the inside out. The process takes weeks, but the result lasts for decades. The hardened linseed oil is water repellent but vapor permeable. The wood can breathe. Rainwater rolls off. Fungi and bacteria find no breeding ground. Insects avoid the treated wood. Medieval sources describe exactly how linseed oil was applied. Craftsmen heated it slightly to help it penetrate better. They applied it in thin layers, allowing each layer to dry completely. Sometimes they mixed in beeswax for extra shine and protection. This knowledge was universal. Every farmer, every carpenter, every boat builder knew about linseed oil treatment. It was as routine as sharpening tools. It wasn't until the 20th century, with the rise of the chemical industry, that this knowledge fell into obscurity. Today, craftsmen and homesteaders are rediscovering this ancient technique. They're realizing linseed oil still works. It's cheaper than modern wood preservatives. It's non-toxic. And it's more durable. Our ancestors were right all along. Now let's get practical. The secret wasn't just the right linseed oil. It was the right application. One mistake and the whole project becomes a sticky disaster. Here's the exact method that's worked for centuries. Step 1. Get the right material. You need real boiled linseed oil. Not the metal salt mixture from the hardware store. Real boiled linseed oil is thicker and dries faster. In Sweden and some other Nordic countries, there are still manufacturers who boil it according to old traditions. It costs more, but it's worth every cent. Alternatively, you can boil raw linseed oil yourself, though boiling is a bit of a misnomer. You need an old pot you'll never use for cooking again. Pour in raw linseed oil and heat it to about 80 degrees Celsius, no higher, or it can ignite. Stir constantly for 2 hours, keeping the temperature steady. The oil will become darker and more viscous. That's polymerization in action, the molecules linking together. Critical safety warning. Linseed oil can self-ignite. The rags you work with must be dipped in water or burned after use. Never throw them away dry or leave them in a pile. Medieval sources documented this danger. Linseed oil rags have caused countless fires. Step 2. Prepare the wood. This is crucial. New wood must be sanded with at least 120 grit sandpaper. This opens the pores so the oil can penetrate. Old, weathered wood must be cleaned thoroughly. Any gray coating must be removed, otherwise the oil just sits on top and never soaks in. The golden trick: warm the linseed oil slightly before use. Not hot, just lukewarm. Warm oil is thinner and penetrates deeper. Medieval craftsmen placed their oil containers in the sun or near the fireplace before application. Step 3. Dilute for deep penetration. Pure linseed oil is too thick for the first coat. Our ancestors diluted it with turpentine. Today, use real balsam turpentine, the stuff made from pine resin, not petroleum-based substitutes. Mixing ratio: 1 part turpentine to 3 parts linseed oil. This thin mixture gets absorbed by the wood like water into a sponge. Apply the first coat liberally with a brush. Don't skimp. The wood should be thoroughly saturated. Pay special attention to end grain, the cut ends of boards. End grain is like a bundle of drinking straws. It will absorb massive amounts of oil. That's intentional. Wait 20 minutes. Then comes the most important step: wipe off all excess oil. Really all of it. The wood should be saturated inside, but the surface must look dry. If you leave a shiny wet layer, it will stay sticky indefinitely and attract dirt. Step 4. Apply wet on wet. This is an old painter's trick. Before the first coat is completely dry, apply the second coat. The linseed oil in the first coat dissolves slightly, and the new coat bonds perfectly with it. The result is even, deep impregnation. For the second coat, use less turpentine or none at all. The oil should form a protective layer rather than penetrating as deeply. Apply. Let it soak in. Wipe off excess. Step 5. Multiple thin layers. This is the secret to longevity. Apply several thin layers instead of one thick layer. Each layer must dry completely before the next. In warm, dry weather, that's 2 to 3 days. In humid conditions, it can take a week. Patience pays off. 3 to 4 thin layers provide protection that lasts for decades. One thick layer will never harden properly and will eventually flake off. The beeswax bonus. Medieval masters had one more trick. After applying the final layer of linseed oil, they rubbed beeswax into the wood. The wax mixes with the still soft oil to form a silky, water-repellent surface. Dissolve beeswax in turpentine until you get a creamy paste. Apply with a rag and polish with a dry cloth after an hour. The result is a warm, matte sheen that looks beautiful and feels smooth. Critical: the drying time. Linseed oil dries from the outside in. The surface may look dry after a day, but it's still soft inside. Wait at least a week before putting any weight on the wood. With thick beams, it can take a month for complete hardening. The result is worth the patience. The treated wood has a deep, warm color. It feels silky and smells pleasantly of linseed oil. Water beads right off, but the wood can still breathe. This treatment lasts 20 to 30 years. When it finally needs renewal, simply clean the wood, sand lightly, and apply a new coat. That's how our ancestors did it. That's how it still works today. Simple, natural, durable. But here are the real benefits. Imagine never standing in the hardware store again, desperately searching for the latest wood preservative. You know that feeling, staring at a shelf with 100 different products, all promising the same thing, all costing a fortune. With linseed oil, that's over. A liter of boiled linseed oil costs about $20 and covers roughly 200 square feet of wood. Modern wood preservatives cost 3 times as much and last half as long. The math is simple. Linseed oil costs pennies per square foot. Chemical treatments cost dollars. But it's about more than money. It's about the feeling of independence. You do it yourself like your ancestors did. You don't need an industry telling you what's good for your wood. You understand how it works. You see the oil soak into the grain. You feel the surface become smooth. That's real craftsmanship, the kind that's been lost in our disposable culture. No toxins leaching into your garden soil. No disposal as hazardous waste. Linseed oil is literally a food product. You could drink it if you wanted to, though I don't recommend it. You rinse the leftovers off your brush with soap and water. That's it. But the best part? The durability. Once done properly, it lasts for decades. Your children will inherit the wood you treat today, just like in the old days when things were built to last for generations. Nature developed the best solution thousands of years ago. The flax plant produces this remarkable oil that protects and nourishes wood. We just have to relearn what's always been there. The medieval secret isn't really a secret. It's simple, proven knowledge that was nearly lost because the chemical industry convinced us we needed their products. Linseed oil, when applied correctly, protects your wood better than any modern chemical treatment. It's been proven over centuries, in Viking longboats, German half-timbered houses, and countless tools and structures that still stand today. Your deck doesn't have to rot in 3 years. Your fence doesn't have to be replaced every decade. Your outdoor furniture doesn't have to become a recurring expense. The solution is simple. It's been here all along. Try it. Your wood and your wallet will thank you.